Right, so they're not all little one-map scenarios here. The third scenario, which I did not do and may come back to, is a three-mapper, but it's all infantry, so I figured, hey, I would rather jump to the vehicles because that's what I'm interested in. I was expecting it to be a small one-mapper. Well, this is the fourth scenario. And this is a situation, it's a follow-up in story from the third, so we can talk about this. Research on impending alien shields is located in a lost notebook. Doc stored a copy in 3 locations, but the bandits have ransacked the area. The militia must search the area until they find the valuable notes. Okay. And that's going to have a specific trying to get the notebook and get off the map edge. And I don't know where the notebook is. Yeah, you use stash markers, which... This is not what we're playing, but I figured I'd give you some idea because I probably am not going to get around to that one. Mainly, again, because this doesn't... the solo plays okay, but it's just not what I want. And the stash markers have these no luck and found it, so you'd scramble them around. And the human's goal is to find them and get it off the map, as well as normal casualties. They get 6 victory points for getting the notebook off, but they also get points for killing things. But this one is the notebook didn't have all the information. The professor, or Doc as the troops call him, was afraid critical information might fall into the killer's hands. Doc has the rest of the material stashed at the radar station. Okay. So the goal of this scenario is to be the last person to have occupied the radar station at any cost. It doesn't matter. That may not really fit too well. Hey, you know, if I'm surrounded but just managed to play out the time, it's a 10-turn scenario. So far we've seen 6. These counters may not be turn markers. Again, I don't know what they're for, but they only go up to 6. The last scenario went for 8. There's nothing on the other side. It's just the same number. Now, I can record the turn with them, but they may have some other purpose that I'm not paying attention to, and you may need to record turns with something else in some of the scenarios. We'll see. So we've got the militia set up first, and they've got some interesting equipment here. We've got the 50 cal, which we've seen before, the Iscaro, which we've seen before. We have Larkin. He's a sniper. He can't move and fire. He's not affected by range, and he's hard to hit because he's like sneaking around hiding. And he also has this weird special ability of O or something like that, which I did not bother to look up beforehand. Hot shot. Fire the unit, attack one armored unit with line of sight with an... Is that what it is? Yeah, apparently. With an APF of 4. He doesn't need to draw a card to hit. Wow. So if he gets power, he might be able to take out an armored unit. And that's important because there are plenty of armored vehicles in this game. That's why I wanted to move on. I didn't realize I was going to get to this big a scenario as the next one. But whatever. I'm fine doing it. It'll let me see more of the game, as it were. Who else do we have here? We have some infantry. We have a dragon, which has some high explosive shells that it can fire with power to take out infantry type units. But, oh, jeez. It also has this arrow here, which he also has. I think that's the cannot move and shoot. And then it's got some armor-piercing capability, so it's got some heavier anti-vehicle weapons. These are basically guys with a bazooka or some such. And then we've got another character, Doc, here. Now, Doc is not well armed, and he doesn't have very much in the way of capabilities. He has one ability, though, again, triggered by the power. And I looked this one up, but telekinetic blast. He can attack an armored unit or an infantry unit within 6 squares with an APF or HEF of 3. Must have line of sight. Now, I made him kind of my key point, although I think maybe Larkin's actually more important. I want the 50 cal to have a nice range of fire for suppressing fire. I may actually use it for that in this because I've got some special abilities and capabilities that are better at taking out some of what's going to be coming, which is namely this. Over on the other side, we have some of our mecha, and these deployments are not free, but they're bounded, and you have a lot of input into where you want to put them. But then I have a destroyer, which is a treaded vehicle with some pretty decent ratings on it and fairly heavy armor, better than the human tanks have. I don't know if all of these vehicles are better than the human vehicles. Here's another destroyer. Ooh. Is that right? I have 2 destroyers in this? I don't know. That's pretty potent. But I'm also facing some pretty potent stuff. Okay, so let's see. There's a destroyer and a destroyer, yeah. Okay. And then, as I said, these other things are coming on the board. So Jack's coming on with some infantry and some armored vehicles, a couple Abrams and a Bradley, and a transporter. Now, I think, if I recall correctly, transporting units probably come in loaded up, and if they have, I think it's the circle says they can carry something on them. Let's take a look here. I'm gonna have to look that up, but I thought that was what it means, is if there's that black circle, it's capable of transporting stuff. But what that would mean is that these Abrams can't carry anyone in them, although the Bradley can, if I'm correct about that. Now, if we look over here, looks like none of their stuff has that capability, except the hover car. And I think they're only allowed to carry 1 unit, but it may be they're allowed to stack 2 with them. I don't recall correctly. So I'll have to look some of the vehicle rules up. But the killers come in over here, facing an urban terrain with, you know, a fairly hefty force against them, whereas the human armored column or whatever is facing a lighter defensive situation. So I think this terrain-wise and situation-wise, it looks like it favors the humans, but we'll see, you know, because again, these are some pretty killer units here. Well, the Panther has no capability of anti-tank weaponry, right? Or very limited. Again, we're going to have to see how these work, but those numbers are the targeting and armor piercing. And I don't know what that hole there means. That's different from a 0. But we'll take a look at that, and I'll be back. Alrighty. So, yeah, I was right. The little black circle means it can carry stuff. Those can come in carrying. Of course, whatever they're carrying is more vulnerable. But this scenario, I believe, still uses 3 end turn cards. No, 4 end turn cards to end a turn. Now, we started off with 1 again. I'm not sure that I'm handling that correctly. The initial cards played up. The Earthlings decided this was not a terribly useful card. I'm not thrilled with Move and Fire because it penalizes the fire, and it most painfully it penalizes the movement and the fire. And the most painful part is you're still susceptible to op fire, which means unless you're going up against an enemy who's already used his fire ability or moved or something, you kind of don't really get both actions in play. All right, so let's see what the humans are up to. We'll draw them a card to fill in their hand, countermeasures, and this is going to be painful. This is big enough that I think we're going to have trouble. But we're having fun with the game so far, so let's see. So I've got one move, and then I've got this, which is move 2 infantry units. It only works on infantry. I don't really have, like, I have some good cards that I don't really want to give up, but I hate giving up a countermeasures, for example, because I'm going to get my ass kicked if not. Command ops are not useful. What is Jack's ability? I think that only works on a limited amount of units, maybe leg units, but maybe... that's command. Add 1 to the targeting modifier HF of all units within 2. Includes infantry. So that's kind of a nice firing or movement, well, firing capability there. Maybe I want to do a move and fire. Yeah, I don't have one now. Oops. Okay, how is the pond? I can't go driving on the pond, except with a hovercraft or a walker, neither of which the Earthlings have. I can get some level of cover from back here. The Abrams does not have a circle. It's the Bradley that does. Now this is going to be carrying the infantry in it, and it can come in 1, 2. Do we have our facing right? I think we face vertices actually. Yeah, we face vertices, but we face it with the tank itself. So I'd be coming in 1, 2, 3. I'm still not in line of sight of this destroyer. 4. These mechas could shoot at me, of course. I don't remember the range on op fire. Well, they're not very good anti-tank weapons, but I really ought to look up the range on the ops fire. Let's see if we can find that. This is not the easiest rule book to find things in part because it's spread across an entire page. I've talked about this before. Just in range. Okay, so I've spent 4 movement points. Now what about climbing the hill? That'll put me in view of this sucker. That's the problem. And I'm not sure I want to do that. I could dump my troops. That might not be a bad move. So I've moved half movement. I think I'm going to dump my infantry. That makes me a little less susceptible. They're both marked as moved. Now I could get rid of cards, but I like my cards. The initiative's on my side. And we're going to be over on the aliens. Now, because I drove on the map here, I think that's going to spark this as the main area where things are going to happen, which might free up somebody from here to run back and get to... I don't know if that's the goal or if it's this. The radar station, B2. This is B7. Where the radar station is. Let's see. On map 2, B2, that's this space. So that's not really trivial to get to for anyone. If it was this, which is what I thought it was, be like, oh yeah, the Earthlings more or less have that. But running back to there, is going to be kind of tough if I haven't dealt with what's coming on here. And the Earthlings have the advantage here in terms of outnumbering the mecha and the killers. So then the question becomes, well, is there something I want to do here with these forces to deal with that tank? And I have a crappy move and fire, and this may be the time to do it. The problem, of course, is move and fire, and it doesn't explain it here. It makes you ops complete because you've both moved and fired, and that makes you less capable of doing anything. Like I said, I don't have a lot of capability against this. Oh, can I assault the tank? That doesn't sound like a great idea. But I don't know, I could jump in and drop a grenade on it or something, right? Okay, so interestingly enough, Assault Combat is using the HEF. Every hitter hits and inflicts it doesn't seem to oh, the first hit against a vehicle shakes it and the second destroys it. Sounds really, really potent. Unfortunately, the fire is simultaneous. I'd need something like 3 hits, and I only have 2 firepower, 2 HE effect from that. So I don't know that that's terribly useful. I'm gonna think a little bit, and I need to change my batteries. I know I'm just basically burning time on the video by doing this, so let me take a break. Before I go any further, I didn't think I had one of these. This is one of the special units, a walker. That's what this hole up here means, is that its armor piercing factor, it doesn't exist unless you buy the equipment for it. Now, I have 7 points, because that's a heavy walker, to buy tools with it, and I'm gonna have to do that now. Yeah, I know I started, but no biggie. And theoretically, I don't think the Earth player knows what I'm equipped with until I show up, so it doesn't really hurt there. The only thing that hurts is I shouldn't know what my cards are. So I chose my walker enhancements. I've got shields, which if they get hit once, flip over. If they get hit a second time, they get destroyed. I took heavy armor, which gives me 2 armor factor. That's not very much total, but like it's not compared to, say, the Abrams. The Bradley's got a 0, so it's not very very powerful. But like compared to my destroyer with its 6, you know, it's just not going to hold up to that. Let's see. I took an autocannon, which gives me 3 high explosive and 3 armor piercing firepower. And then for targeting, I basically, because I had 7 points and couldn't figure what I wanted for 1, I took the enhanced optics, which gives me a +1 on targeting other vehicles. I'm looking at this as mainly an anti-personnel weapon, but I kind of want to go halfway. I probably screwed up. Maybe what I wanted was to go, you know, with a couple machine guns or something, because it can fire all its weapons at once. March up, try to cope with these and, you know, thermal imaging and stuff like that to just try to take that shit out. But I got other things like the Shredder that's pretty good at anti-personnel weaponry. The Bouncer, which has this 3-2. Damned if I know what's up with that. Guess I'll have to look that sucker up too. Well, that's an interesting little bit of technology. That's based on this weapons capability here. And yeah, I didn't go through of the capabilities, right? This is Ricochet. The unit has 2 HEF APF. The unit follows normal firing routines when targeting an enemy and uses the first of its factors. After that combat's resolved, the ammunition ricochets to the nearest enemy target unit within 2 squares of the original, attacking that with the second factor. In the case of the bouncer's HEF, this would be 2. If the second target was a hard target, the bouncer would attack it with APF of 2, automatically hitting it. The cover factors of the second target are assessed as if the fire was originating in the first target's square. There is an exception. The attacker does not get any range benefits. If there isn't a target, the second attack doesn't happen. Wow, that's a weird little weapon. Hover car has something on it too, which I can't even make out. The car kind of, I guess that's a difficult target. That's what it looks like there. What are these? We know Spider-Bot has, I don't know what, but these are my mechas. Okay. Oh, and this thing's able to close assault too. Awesome. Does it have a plus? Yes, it does. All right. So, back to playing. Well, we're going to test this out. We're going to do the move and fire. And we're going to move the bouncer on. 1, 2, 3. Remember, it's going to get an ops complete after this. And now we're going to fire the high explosive. Now, when I measure these out, obviously, you know, I'm cutting the corners off the buildings, and I'm going to say I can't see at, you know, at this range either way. Again, if you play it strictly from here, and I think I will in this particular case, because I'm not looking around the building that I'm in or whatever, which maybe makes sense that I would still only be able to fire this way. I don't know. Anyway, maybe we'll just play this strictly all through because it's going to get too complicated if I try to fudge things. Anyway, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hexes away. I fire the HE round. Now I can fire at either Doc or at this 50 caliber. I'm more worried about the 50 cal. I think, I don't know, Doc's got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 range, so he's kind of dangerous, but the 50 cal has the suppression fire, which isn't that terribly impressive. What does Doc do? Does he blow vehicles up? Yeah, he kind of does. Let's shoot Doc instead. Alright, so we're going to fire 3 at him. Now, I didn't do this correctly last time. I think my 50 caliber last time I was using the leg unit firing. So, out at range 7, there's no penalty here for the HE. So I've got 3 shots at Doc. He's got defensive terrain. That drops him to 2. He's got nothing else really going for him. I'm going to do a countermeasures and drop that to 1. That's this move and fire. The HEF was down 1 because I moved and fired, so no draws there. Now, does the ricochet affect this? It goes to the nearest enemy target within 2, attacking that target. Okay, so now it's a 2-point hitting the 50 cal. The terrain is still in effect, so we go to a 1 point, and we still have movement, so we go down to 0, I guess. I don't know if movement counts here. I actually don't think the terrain takes effect. I think I get a single draw against the machine gun, one way or another. And I get a hit star, which isn't going to do anything. Now I can discard cards. Is there anything I want it to discard? This isn't terribly helpful right now. It might be in a little while, but we'll get rid of it for now. And that moves the magic crystal over here. The card draw for the humans doesn't help much. It's this first fire, which is an excellent reaction card. If a vehicle's going to fire at me, I can shoot at it first. Doesn't look like it requires, well, I can shoot at it and it's simultaneous. It doesn't look like it requires that I, have any kind of eligible unit status, although maybe it would make sense to look to see. Okay, it has to be a vehicle at another vehicle and can only be played on an EU. It would be helpful if this kind of information was presented on the cards. Too many times, some of them it is, some of them it isn't. This is a reaction. How many other reactions have this kind of situation, like countermeasures? Well, it doesn't say. But in this case, as a reaction, I think it's a special condition. So this isn't really as helpful as I thought it was. I have nothing I really want to play, though. I have a Bloodlust. I'll play that. Get rid of my moved marker, huh? Right? No, that gets rid of a rally. I'm thinking second wind here. I've done this before. So I'm kind of left with nothing I really want to do. I'll discard a card because that rally 2 is probably going to be useful, but maybe not for quite some time. So that puts a pass. Now that puts an interesting position on the aliens. They could just pass and the turn ends. I don't know if it gets us any closer to victory if that happens. We haven't killed a unit. Nothing's happened where we have any edge. So we look and we have some fires and movements. And that's about it, really. So I got a power card. I don't think I have any powers. I may want to hold on to that. So I'll probably play my movement. I'm going to try to slip my handler in. Now let's see about him. He has... I got to worry about the movement rate of these things. In buildings, it's always 2 for these guys. So I can come 1, 2. I'm in line of sight here. 8 spaces. So an op fire could be done. 8 spaces is at a penalty, though. So I'm going to let him continue his move. He moves to here, dropping this counter. Does he have anything he wants to get rid of? Not really. So we push back here. Another end turn. Okay, I got my second wind card. Ooh. Well, that's what I was looking at before. I still have no movement or anything. I'll play my second wind and get rid of that. There's nothing I want to really discard at this point. That puts us back here. It's another fire and movement. Spider bots can't come on. The handler has to drop those. I could push the shredder up and try to blast Doc. I really kind of want to get rid of Doc. Of course, this is just movement. And if I get it too close, they'll end up shooting him. Shit. See, the vehicles can't go through the buildings at all, which seems a little weird. If you've ever seen what tanks can do to buildings, they should be able to just crush through them, but nah. This is rubble. Rubble is probably 2 movement point. Yeah. No. Yeah, 2. This is a truck. I don't think that costs anything. So I'll move here 1. I guess this is woods of some sort. 2, 3. Take a moved marker there. We're playing one of these. Nothing I really want to discard. Well, I don't know if I'm going to need this reload and fire. I may need it. It's unlikely, but I'll hold there. And we'll pause again. This is really fatiguing to play with the camera. And Earthlings drew a card. It was a good one. It's a power card, right? Well, I don't want to expend that. I have all good cards. I just passed. That put the mechs in or the aliens in a dangerous, position where again they could end the turn. And in fact, if they had a good hand, they might want to, and just delay things. But instead, they had a move counter, pushed another unit forward. That puts us back on Earth. And I'm in this kind of, I can't do anything. If I play this move, I use it up. Yet I'm allowing the enemy to deploy on the board. Well, that's not really working well. But I really want that power card for over here. Light wounds for the infantry. How likely is infantry going to get hit? Probably pretty unlikely. I'm going to throw a couple of cards. And that's another pass. But at least I'm getting a chance to get my cards on the board. Okay. I got another move. I'm just going to keep bringing... I'm out. Uh-oh. And I didn't bring the hover car in. That's not really terribly useful in this terrain. I want to get that in clear terrain, so I can hold off on that for some time. I'm going to push the shredder forward. I'll give it a moved marker. But I'm not going any further forward because, hey, I know Doc could blast me at that range. Of course, maybe some of these other weapons could too. But it doesn't really look like there's a lot of anti-vehicle capacity here, and all my vehicles are coming in here. So that seems okay to me. This might not be terribly valuable to me, but I'll hold. Now we come back to the... This gives me more armor piercing if I can do a fire. I've got a move and fire. Hey, no power on this one. I'm going to activate. Why are these both unmoved? There should be a move marker on the vehicle. I couldn't not move both of them, or I couldn't unmove both of them. I don't know if the infantry is what I would have chosen, but I'm going to bring something else in, and oh boy, I don't know what. See, if I come into line of sight, I'm going to get lit up, but I have the numerical superiority here. I think I've got to start moving in, but these infantry are useful for kind of delaying, maybe. I don't know. It's not like a game where you can just... Oh yeah, well I didn't move, and you flip over a piece or whatever and mark it as moved. If you pass, that's fine. You'll still get an opportunity later. So, okay, how much are woods to move through? Woods are only 1 to move through. So that's 1, 2, 3, pushing forward here. Again, I don't know for sure what I'm doing, but I want to keep this shit. I got 2 first fires now. The problem with that is if I move and I get op fired or get shot at, I can't use these suckers. So maybe they're not that terribly useful to me. But we'll hold. puts us over here again. Third end turn, there's 4 per turn for this scenario though. And another power card. Well, there's only so much I can do. I can move some of these units. I don't have a line of sight on anything though yet. And I kind of need a move and fire for this to work. I don't have any special abilities anywhere. God, I'm just like frozen on both sides. Well, I'll play a move. And see. I can't see. I'm trying to see if I could see through here, but that's pretty obvious that that building's going to block. Here, though, I think I may have a line of sight. If I had a longer thing, I could have this thing. I could test, and it looks to me like I probably have line of sight between Larkin and that infantry up there. Where am I? Oh, that infantry can't fire. All right, so I'm moving something in. I don't know what. That's 3. If I move here, he can't power me in order to take my walker out. So I'll go here for 3. Now he could op fire at me. Does that require a card? I seem to recall that it did, but maybe I'm mistaken. What? I can't shoot without a card? What's up with that? Yeah, you need a fire action card. I have one, but that doesn't really help. I don't think I can use a power here at all. Okay. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't want to get in there. Now, if I go there, I'm probably in line of sight of that dragon. See, okay, that crosses the building, so I can sneak behind that building there. And now this gets kind of tricky. I put this on top. Not on either side, I'm not really taking a very effective attack in terms of, you know, being able to launch what I want to do, but you know, I'm just so afraid of getting lit up. All right, I think we'll pause. So just looking at that line of sight situation, and this is why it really bugs me in this thing. I'm looking at this hex in particular, right here. I can actually trace it with this smaller piece. So if the dragon is firing at that, it clips the corner of this building. Okay, fair enough, maybe I'm up against the wall here. Well, the same happens with Larkin firing here. One or the other of these is going to be able to shoot anything that goes up there. But by the rules, no, that ain't the case. And it still happens at this hex. Look, tiny, tiny little clip. Oh, man. And again, you know, I have my own little, gee, maybe I should house rule it the way I was earlier. But it basically makes this road invulnerable to anything except this space. Well, and the direct line. And I really don't like looking at that kind of line of sight situation. It's just unacceptable. You know, it's like if I want protection from this corner here of this building, I mean, theoretically, I'm attacking from, I'm going to be near the corner with my sniper or whatever, right? So I'll be able to hit anything from there. But no, I have to trace from the center, and when I trace from the center, as soon as I get to center in this hex, which is what's done, I have a problem there. And again, you know, I think it's that the squares are too big in relation to the building. There's just not enough, you know, and I'm not saying, gee, the road should be much wider. I'm saying that this guy should be able to be, you know, on the corner of the building, as it were. And that I just don't know. I just know that you have a line, you know, if you're standing on this building in a real situation, you will have a line of sight down this road a fair ways, and certainly not just to this space here. There's also, of course, the fact that, hey, this is probably not completely blocking line of sight, but let's pretend differently. And then the shape of the building does cause me problems there. I'm going to keep playing with the rules as written for this one because it's just too complex to try to fudge it. But it definitely provides a lot of cover. And I probably set up poorly thinking that I had some kind of field of fire down there. Okay, so now we're in an interesting place. One, I don't think we've been in any other game that I've played with this. End turn markers came out as I'm kind of piddling around, not really doing enough. But I don't know how much, you know, that was destined, because that means I'm not really drawing, I'm not discarding as many cards, not drawing as much. So now we go to the initiative player, and he can move all his pieces, essentially, that aren't within 3, and most that are, a little bit at least. And that brings us to a neat question. Do I have a card that'll give me initiative? And I don't have one sitting there. If I had like a 10 in my hand, I would say, oh, I'm going to get first fire next turn. I'll move my pieces into a risky position. As it is, I don't think that's really the case, but I do have more of that I go, you go type setting up the board at this point. And I really have to kind of think, hey, is there somewhere I want to go, you know? I can move to the road here, but that's not terribly useful. Here, yeah, this is 2 away, so again, I can only move to the road. So I think these guys are all pretty much stuck where they are. They don't want to move forward. That's fine. They're holding off the main force. Now my question becomes, and initiative hurts you here, definitely. What do I want to do with my units back here? And of course I also have this infantry that got a second wind or whatever. I think I'm going to allow this one to stand. But right there, he's barely cutting the corner. That would actually be a line of sight block. I'm just like, that's not believable to me. This vehicle's actually facing this way. I think he's going to have to do something to get his line there. Given that I don't have good cards, I'm going to position like this, I think. You know what? No, I've got to go up here. 1, 2, 3. All right. We'll send our armor up. We're at risk of artillery fire there. And I don't think we're moving anything here. So now we go to whether the mecha have anything they want to do. And they have a choice of possibly falling back. One thing I definitely want to do is I want to turn this gun here. Here I don't want to get any closer. I'm as good as I can be. I've got a nice bid, so I'll probably bring something on. Well, now the lines of sight are so screwed over here that I'm so far away that I can't really get too close. I only get 3 movement points with armored vehicles and 2 with infantry. And actually, does it say infantry or foot? This is the weirdest thing, because this is, if it says infantry, it's going to really piss me off. Yeah, it says infantry units may expend 2, but both, yeah, so armored units may move 3, infantry may expend 2. So here's the problem. I've got all these cards that say infantry only, the rules talk about infantry as foot units. And the cards, I don't think, differentiate. And this would maybe has been a huge advantage in the favor of the Earthlings between whether they mean infantry, a specific type of unit like mecha, or if they mean infantry as in all units of foot class. And originally, because of I read the rules more than looking at the components, I thought the latter. And then when my wife and I played, we switched to infantry is infantry, and it means Jack's not an infantry, it means mechas aren't infantry. Well, that's kind of skewed my game so far. Let's see. I really highly doubt that the card description, and this is the problem with, not nailing down the rules, and this game really does not. Let's take a look and see. You may move up to 2 infantry, and here it specifies soft target and leg. Okay. The reaction card. Infantry or soft target may ignore 1 hit. And again, all right, so some of the soft targets are actually trucks. So calling it by soft target seems wrong here too. But my feeling is when cards specify infantry from now on, I'm going to deal with them as I did originally, which is you're kind of a leg unit that's a dude, Be nice if they didn't use the same term on the counters, because honestly, my initial response from reading the rules was infantry or the soft target, foot units. That's fine. But then playing it, the question came up. We looked in the rules, could not find it because I wasn't aware necessarily of this card actions section that spells out the stuff on the cards that maybe should have been written on the cards. There's plenty of room that they could have, they could have said leg units or soft leg units or something like that instead of infantry, or they could have not called these infantry, right? They're militia, right? They're called militia in the scenario. They're infantry militia or something like that. Well, call them militia then. What the fuck? Anyway, these turns are going to be long, so, well, I still got to make the rest of the movements here. I'm willing to take this shot. I'm willing to turn here to take this. These guys are kind of in view now, I think. Maybe not. Who knows? Looks like they're blocked. So I feel pretty safe with where they are. But the question is, all their mass is coming this way. So I think I'm going to move these guys down. I can look at this. This is an infantry. He could be kind of annoying once he crests that hill, but I feel like, oh, but now I just got interviewed, didn't I? Yeah, I think I did. It clips that corner a little bit maybe, but they're right on the diagonal. There's no real question there. Okay. So wait, what was the issue where I said the corner was being clipped? Ah, it's here where it clearly is being clipped. This is not a diagonal or a straight line, so it's going to clip this corner, and I think they're safe. I can't think of any. I can't see any other way to read that. That clips that corner, and somehow they're always assumed to be hiding from one another, and it's really hard, So the point is, if I want to mass my fire, I can put units here, but I can't put them here and expect a fire to bust through. Even though, theoretically, I'm the one who controls whether or not I can push through here, right? I just don't know. Okay. It's like the situation here. Theoretically, I'm the guy who controls whether or not I'm on the corner of the building sniping down with my one guy, you know, or here, what is it? It's three guys. Three guys, you know. All right, we'll send this up as soon as I get the damn mechs on the board. I've got this thing. This thing I don't know what to do with. I'm gonna just park it back here, and I'll clean it. It's really not a combat vehicle at all. It's gonna be something that grabs a mecha and runs me out here. Largely transports don't serve a lot of purpose when you're directly in combat, but if you need to make a quick run for something, they're going to be helpful because the infantry is so slow, and that gets, you know, a 10 movement point, which is better than the armor has, to get infantry into place in a location. And infantry are presumably pretty valuable they should be for holding ground. All right. And then I have some cleanup at the end of the turn, throw away some cards and stuff, but I'm not going to go into that.